The Senate will really come to order now. The senators will please take their seats. Those persons not entitled to the privilege of the floor will please retire to the gallery. The senators and all in attendance will stand and be led now in prayer by the Reverend Dr. Charles J. Kellum, Sr., New Mount Zion Baptist Church in Painter, Virginia. Dr. Kellum.
Let us pray. Almighty God, the source of all being, we thank you for a beautiful day. Thank you for health and strength. Thank you for allowing each of us to arrive safely. Creator and sustainer of all life, we ask now that you would bless this gathering. Almighty God, I ask that you would give each person wisdom and understanding. Bless them as a collective body, so what they do here today will be pleasing in your sight. Hear our prayer. Amen.
Amen. The clerk will call the roll. All those present, please vote aye. The clerk will close the roll.
You have a quorum, Mr. President. Senate Journal for Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The Senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason, moves that the reading of the journal be waived. All in favor of the waiving of the reading of the journal will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 31, noes 3.
Ayes 31, noes 3. The reading of the journal is waived. The clerk will report any communication from the House of Delegates.
I do not have any, sir.
The clerk will report any communication from the governor.
I do not have any, sir.
Now comes the time in the morning hour. We have the privilege and pleasure of welcoming guests here to the gallery. And I'd like to begin by recognizing the senator from Fauquier, Senator Vogel.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator.
I rise for purposes of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, the 71st Annual Model General Assembly, sponsored by the Virginia YMCA, will be held March 22nd through the 24th here at the Capitol. Since 1948, thousands of Virginians have learned how laws are created and how to debate civilly through the Model General Assembly. I, along with Senators Lewis and Mason, can attest to the program's value and effect on our choice to go into public service. If any of you will be in the Capitol in March, the students would truly value any help and support you can offer. The officers are in the gallery this morning, along with Virginia YMCA Executive Director Sharon Davis, their families, and the student clerks and floor leaders. And if you will allow me, I will introduce the 2018 Model General Assembly officers. The youth governor is Anna Sexauer from Broadwater Academy. The lieutenant governor is Christopher Kuritz. He's from Faith Christian School. Attorney General is Remy Butts, and she's from Kenston Forest School. The House Speaker is Cameron Davis. He's from Richlands High School. The House Speaker Pro Tem is Caroline Tornquist from HB Woodlawn. And the Senate President Pro Tem is Sadie Saunders, and she's from Nandua High School. And with that, I would ask that you please extend to them the very, very warm welcome of the Senate of Virginia.
I thank the senator. I'll just give our daily reminder that you're going to get 2 rounds of applause today, by the way. We wait until I offer the warm greetings of the Senate, and then we will all applaud our guests together. And I want to thank Senator Vogel for her very kind words about the work that you are doing in the Model General Assembly. Sharon, the Executive Director, I want to thank you for your leadership with these really bright and brilliant young people. I had the pleasure of visiting with a couple of them earlier. And so Chris and Sadie, thank you guys for coming by my office. Anna, I want to extend specific greetings from the governor, Ralph Northam, who wanted me to recognize you as being from the Eastern Shore. And so he is very grateful that you're here. Sadie as well, also from the Eastern Shore, and Chris from Roanoke, and all of our great officers. So thank you for your leadership. We look forward to the day where you'll be standing and sitting where we're all standing and sitting and leading this Commonwealth. So I would ask that everyone would join me in please extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the YMCA Model General Assembly. The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. Joining us in the gallery today is the Astoria Beneficial Club, founded in 1901 by 22 African-American men here in the city of Richmond who believed in firm religious values, high moral standing, intellectual growth, and civic and social responsibility. Astoria has earned a significant place in Richmond's history. They believe that barriers to full citizenship could be eliminated with patience, planning, and timely action. And their vision has become a guiding light for a rich history of pioneer efforts to gain voting rights, equal opportunity employment, and to end segregation of public eating facilities. The Astoria Creed has inspired outstanding men from every walk of life, higher moral, intellectual, civic, and social standing for almost a century. And I ask that you give them a warm welcome from the Senate.
I thank the senator from Richmond City, the members of the Astoria Benefit Club. Thank you for joining us here today. We are very grateful for your leadership, for the rich history that your organization represents, and for all the progress that you've helped us make over that century. And we look forward to the work that you will continue to do. Honored to have you here in our presence, and you're welcome back anytime. I would ask everyone, please, to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Virginia Senate to the Astoria Benefit Club. The senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis.
Mr. President, rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, in furtherance of today's theme of the Eastern Shore, I'm proud to introduce the person who gave us the invocation this morning, Reverend Dr. Charles Kellum, Sr. Dr. Kellum is the pastor at New Mount Zion Baptist Church, where he has been since 2001. He is a native of the Eastern Shore, and he resides in Sheridan with his wife, Doris Kellum, and their two children, Charles Jr. and Sherrile. Dr. Kellum attended Northampton High School in Eastville and then received his Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from St. Paul's College. Dr. Kellum is a 2004 graduate of Virginia Union University School of Theology with a Master's in Divinity. Dr. Kellum is a 2010 Dr. Kellum currently teaches at Northampton High School, where he serves as JV basketball coach, serves as the first vice moderator for the Eastern Shore Virginia Maryland Baptist Association and its ministries, and is a board member for the Baptist General Convention of Virginia. I would hope that would join me in asking for the warm welcome of the Senate.
I thank the senator from Accomack. Dr. Kellum, would you please rise in the gallery? We want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for leading us off with that really wonderful and powerful prayer. Thank you for your leadership in the Commonwealth of Virginia, in the faith community and beyond, and for educating our children as well. So we look forward to having you back many more times. Give our best to your wife and two children. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Dr. Kellum. The senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purposes of several introductions.
The senator has the floor.
In attendance today in the gallery, we have from the Fraternal Order of Police of Virginia, President Kevin Carroll from Chesterfield County, Vice President John Ornberger from Dulles, immediate past President Marty Williams from Chesapeake, and Tommy Stiles, National Trustee from Chesterfield County. Also in attendance are members of the FOP and the law enforcement community from across the Commonwealth of Virginia. I would also like to add to that list the members of the Community Coalitions of Virginia, Regina Whitsett with SAFE, which is Substance Abuse Free Environment, and she's the executive director there. The Fraternal Order of Police is made up of roughly 7,000 sworn law enforcement officers from all across the Commonwealth. Their membership includes local law enforcement agencies, state police, sheriff's deputies, Capitol Police, and corrections officers, to just name a few. They are supported by an auxiliary lodge that is comprised of family members and an associate lodge comprised of citizens who work to support law enforcement officers. Each and every day, these brave men and women from this organization serve and protect the citizens of Virginia. Today is their annual rally day in the General Assembly. This is their 31st anniversary of Law Enforcement Appreciation Day here in the General Assembly, and they are here to offer their opinions both for and against proposed legislation that affects law enforcement in Virginia. They're also hosting their 31st annual reception tonight at the SunTrust Center building starting at 5 o'clock. Each delegate and senator has been invited to attend, and I will be there as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Chase. We have the members of the Fraternal Order of Police. Thank you for being here with us today. We are honored by your presence, and we're very grateful for the work that you do every single day here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, for your bravery, for your commitment to keeping us all safe. And coming from a law enforcement family myself, I am deeply, deeply grateful for the work that you do. And I know that all the senators here, the staff, and everyone here is so very happy that you joined us today. And we think often about you and what you do to keep us safe. So thank you. We look forward to a great reception tonight. Thanks, Senator Chase, for her very kind words about you all. And I would ask everyone to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the members of the Fraternal Order of Police. The Senator from Bath, Senator Deeds.
Mr. President, I rise for an introduction.
The Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, it's my pleasure to announce that in the gallery we have a group from the board and staff of the Virginia Foundation of the Humanities, one of the largest humanities groups, statewide humanity groups in the country. They're with their new executive director, Matthew Gibson, and new board chair, Tucker Lemon. Now, part of this group drew the short straw and had to go down the hall to the more numerous body, but part of the group is here. This year marks an important milestone in the Virginia Foundation of the Humanities history, 44-year history. Rob Vaughn, who founded the organization in 1974, retired this past June. So this year we welcome the new leadership of Matthew Gibson, who previously served as the Foundation's Director of Digital Initiatives and creator and editor of its Encyclopedia of Virginia for 11 years. A trailblazer in the field of public humanities, the Virginia Foundation for the Humanities is the only state council to produce its own radio programs and the only humanities organization in the world to partner with Google to produce virtual tours of historic sites from slave dwellings to presidents' homes, accessible to K-12 students and adults alike. Mr. President, I'd ask that you recognize the board and staff of the Virginia Foundation of Humanities, and especially the new executive director, Matthew Gibson, and the new board chair, Tucker Lemon.
I thank the Senator. Would the members of the Virginia Foundation for the Humanities please rise in the gallery if you're able? You already beat me to the punch. So thank you guys so much for joining us here. I want to thank the Senator from Bath for his kind words about the very important work that you do here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It is essential to telling our story and to making sure that our culture remains one that we can be so proud of. And so thank you for the leadership that you have shown, for the work that you do every single day. I want to thank the executive director and the new board chair particularly. And thank you for your leadership of this really wonderful organization. So I would ask everyone here to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to the Virginia Foundation for the Humanities. The Senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for two introductions.
Senator has the floor.
The first introduction is of a group called Alexandria Families for Safe Streets. They are joined by their founder, Mike Doyle, also by Sarah Hashimi and Dihem Bizadi. Unfortunately and tragically, Ms. Bizzotti lost her dad, and her mom was severely injured in a traffic fatality that didn't need to occur in Alexandria. And our other two guests were themselves hit by careless drivers. And they're here to bring visibility to this issue. Most of us, or I wasn't aware, that you can kill or severely injure a pedestrian or a vulnerable user for what many would consider a routine traffic offense or routine violation, such as going through a stop sign or turning right on red or failure to yield to a pedestrian at a stop crosswalk. And the judge, this was the most troubling, a judge is not even empowered to suspend a driver's license when this occurs unless they're charged with a much higher offense that's harder to prove. So they're here to advocate for Senate Bill 919, and I hope that, Mr. President, you could extend to them the greetings of the Senate.
I thank the senator from Alexandria. I also would like to thank the members of the Alexandria Families for Safe Streets. I see you here with us in the gallery standing, and we're very grateful that you joined us here today, and very grateful for your advocacy of a very important subject matter. And thank you for sharing your personal stories and for turning your pain into purpose, which is something that really is going to benefit everyone. So it shows really leadership and empathy and heart that you would go out and advocate to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to stay safe throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so we're grateful that you've joined us here today. We hope that you have a great day here at the Capitol, and you're welcome back any time. So I want to please ask everyone to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our wonderful members here from the Alexandria Families for Safe Streets. The senator from Alexandria, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Mr. President. For a second introduction, I want to introduce, on behalf of Senators Barker, Saslow, and myself, the Vice Mayor of Alexandria, Justin Wilson. Vice Mayor Wilson is here today because he was in the Page class of 1993, 25 years ago, and he's going to talk to the current Pages after session on his experience and how it shaped him into who he is today. Justin is a leader in Alexandria on capital improvements, but what I find most notable is you can email him 24/7, and rivaling only the senator from Southern Fairfax, you can email him questions, constituent issues, and he will respond in real time with amazing accuracy. I don't know how he does it, but don't email me at all hours, please.
Thank the senator. The vice mayor joined us here from Alexandria, standing in the gallery. I want to welcome you. It's really wonderful to see you, and thank you for your great leadership in Alexandria and throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. I think you have a really strong and fantastic first name. It's going to take you far. And as our pages can see, a member of the Page class of 1993, you're leaders in the making, and this is what can happen when you work hard. So thank you, Vice Mayor Justin Wilson. I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to you. Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope they are still here. They came in early. We have a group visiting with us today from Brunswick County Lake Gaston Tourism Association who are sponsoring Brunswick Stew at the Capitol today. Cookers, Tracy Clary, Stew Master, Leonard Clary, Cole Clary, Tommy Lucy, Charles Waller, Steve Capps, Jimmy Easter, Carol Tucker, Mike Wright, and joining them from the Board of Supervisors, Bernard L. Griffin, Bernard L. Jr. Sr., Frederick A. Harrison Sr., and with Dr. Charlotte Woodward, the County Administrator, Leslie Weddington, and Bobby Connors. I would appreciate it, Mr. President, on behalf of Senator Ruff and all of the stew lovers in the gallery, if you would welcome them to the Senate of Virginia.
I thank the senator from Portsmouth. Would the members of the Brunswick County Lake Gaston Tourism Association please rise? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you for the Brunswick Stew. I'm going to have mine later today, and I know you gave each of the senators and the staff a taste as well. And thank you for your leadership. Brunswick is a really special part of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We are grateful every year that you come here and warm our bellies and our hearts with your stew, but also with your great story about Brunswick. So we look forward to many more years of this great activity. Thank you for what you did to set everything up. It really is an undertaking and takes a lot of hard work, but we are very grateful to each one of you. And so I would ask everyone here in the Senate to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to our members from the Brunswick County Lake Gaston Tourism Association. The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
And I apologize for not having a green sheet, Mr. President. But joining us today, I'm not sure they're in the gallery, but they may be in one of the Senate rooms, is not only one of the best, but the tallest sheriff in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Sheriff Jim O'Sullivan, and about 10 of his deputies are here today to come talk to us. And they also will be at the FOP reception tonight at the Sun Trust Building, starting at 5:30. I hope that everyone will try to get over there. These folks are great folks. And on behalf of Senator Spruill and myself, I hope you will offer the warm welcome of the Senate to Sheriff Jim O'Sullivan and his deputies.
Great. I thank the Senator and Sheriff O'Sullivan. Not sure if you've joined us yet in the gallery, but your deputies, and hopefully you all will make it over later. But I thank the Senator for his kind words about you and your leadership and what you do to protect us, to keep us safe, and we are grateful to you. And I would ask everyone please to join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Sheriff O'Sullivan and his deputies. The senator from King George, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a motion.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I request unanimous consent to introduce a bill dealing with a license plate for the American Legion.
The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill relating to the license plate in the American Legion? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, I rise for a motion.
Senator has the floor.
In keeping with the majority leader's Friday is absolutely, positively nothing considered. I'd ask for unanimous consent to introduce a bill with regard to exemptions to Virginia's antitrust law.
The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill regarding the Commonwealth's antitrust laws? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I too would like to ask for unanimous consent to introduce two bills. The first one has to do with a fairly technical bill authorizing the Attorney General and the Department of Taxation to share certain information and disclose certain information under the Master Settlement Agreement and the Non-Participating Master Adjustment Settlement Agreement. So I ask for unanimous consent to introduce this bill.
That bill. The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill as described by the senator from Roanoke City? All in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. Senator from Roanoke City.
And Mr. President, I also ask unanimous consent for the Senate to introduce a bill regarding appointments to the Broadband Advisory Council. So I ask for unanimous consent for that.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill as described by the senator from Roanoke City? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. Senator from Portsmouth, Senator Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to request consent to introduce two bills. And, Mr. President, these are the bills that were previously introduced, but they had not reached the chamber. So I just need to do it again to make sure that we're in proper form.
Yes.
And, Mr. President, the first bill is the anti-militia bill that I asked for unanimous consent for on Monday. So if you might, Mr. President.
Yes. The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill related to anti-militia? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill.
And also, Mr. President, the second bill has finally arrived to this chamber, and it's the bill on charitable gaming. And I also ask for unanimous consent.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill relating to charitable gaming? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator DeSteff.
Mr. President, I rise for the introduction of legislation the day after cutoff. I request unanimous consent to introduce the same bill I introduced yesterday on stormwater, but we forgot to hit the button in time. So we've now hit the button in time, so it's dropped, and I'd like to request unanimous consent yet again.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill relating to stormwater? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. The senator from Chesterfield, Senator Chase.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for the purpose of two introductions.
Senator has the floor.
We have Daniel Ruthier, who is a volunteer for my office today. He is a homeschool student from Chesterfield in my district and does a fantastic job. And I would also like to recognize Leanne Bowman, who is one of my original legislative aides who's joined us again this year. So it's great having her back, and appreciate both of them working so hard in my office.
Thank the senator. Would Daniel and Leanne please rise? Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Thank you for your work with Senator Chase and the important work that we do here in the Senate. We're grateful for your commitment and for your dedication to service. And I know Senator Chase in particular is grateful for your work. So I would ask everyone here to please join me in extending the warm welcome of the Senate to Daniel and to Leanne. Do any other senators wish to be recognized for purposes of introduction? Is there any other business for the morning hour? Seeing none, the clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Wednesday, January 24th, 2018. Uncontested calendar. Senate bills on third reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, before I make the motion, I guess I should have advised the body that the deadline for unanimous consent is retroactive until Tuesday, so what was done this morning is moot. Mr. President, I respectfully move that all the Senate bills on the third reading on the uncontested calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 1 through 4, including Senate Bill 375 through Senate Bill 851, that they be placed on their final passage in the block. Any senator who desires to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall the Senate bills on the uncontested calendar, third reading, pages 1 through 4, Senate Bill 375 through Senate Bill 851, be placed upon their final passage in the block, with the understanding that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block will do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The bills are before us in the block. The clerk will read the number of the bills.
Thank you. Senate Bill 567. Senate Bill 682, Senate Bill 702, Senate Bill 741, Senate Bill 851.
Senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance, wish to be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of personal privilege. Is that right?
Maybe do it at the end of the calendar, or is it an introduction? Or
Mr. President,
okay.
I would remind the body, I realize that spontaneity is a wonderful thing, but when we are in the middle of a portion of the calendar and there are motions pending, that is not the appropriate time to go to another subject.
The question is, shall the bills in the block pass? All in favor of the passage of the bills will record their vote aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The bills in the block pass.
Regular calendar, Senate bills on third reading. Senate Bill 149, a bill relating to smoking in outdoor amphitheater or concert venue, penalty.
The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the bill pass. By way of explanation, Senate Bill 149 is the bill that Roanoke City in particular requested. We have an outdoor amphitheater, and there have been complaints of people smoking in the outdoor amphitheater with children around. And so the city would like to have, by ordinance, the authorizing authority to pass an ordinance that would provide that the city could designate part of the amphitheater as non-smoking, maybe part as smoking. And the ordinance would specifically require adequate signage, so there's no question. It would also require that any person that smokes during a concert in the non-smoking area and an official that specifically says, please do not smoke here. There is a non-smoking area. If that person persists in smoking, then that person can be hit with a whopping $25 civil penalty. And the money would not go to the city, it would go to the Virginia Health Care Fund. That's all it does. It's about as simple as it can be. With that explanation, I ask that the bill pass.
I thank the senator. Do any senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 149?
Mr. President.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
I have a question for the patron if he's willing.
Well, Senator,
I'd be happy to answer the question.
This has been discussed a lot in our area. We both know which amphitheater it's about. And I would just ask, is there anything in the bill that limits how much of the area will be labeled a non-smoking area? Is what will be the result is a very small smoking area, or will it be a very small non-smoking area? Or are we thinking 50-50? Whereabouts are we on this?
Mr. President.
A senator from Roanoke City.
By way of answering, it doesn't specifically designate, but the lobbyists for the city made it clear that there would be a non-smoking area and a smoking area. And so whether it's 50-50, I cannot say, but there would have to be clearly designated areas so nobody could be confused. And that if somebody smokes in a non-smoking area, an official would have to say, please don't smoke here. And then I think 99% of the people would be kind enough to say, well, thank you very much for reminding me. And then if not, then it's only a $25 civil penalty. So, no, there's not 50-50, but it would have to be, the city has made it clear it would be a non-smoking area that would be clearly designated. And, of course, there'd be smoking areas as well.
Senator from Roanoke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's my only question for. May I speak to the bill?
Senator has the floor.
I don't want to trespass on the body's time because I think I have a sense of where the Senate's going to vote on this one. But just one of the concerns I have about this, it's an open air space. And when this proposal originally came out from the city council that requested it, they wanted to be able to ban smoking in pretty much all open air public spaces. And I worry about future bills on that subject. But also on this specific bill, I worry about how much of the area is actually going to be provided for each group of people. I think, at least in my area, we have some restaurants that do have non-smoking sections that are pretty much the hallway as you enter the restaurant. And so the state law says that there needs to be the two separate sections, and they comply with the state law. But that's not what I think a lot of you that supported that bill hoped for. You were hoping for a more expansive non-smoking section in those restaurants, and they've had issues with state agencies from time. My concern is how much of this open air space are we going to be narrowing? And I appreciate the body's opportunity to address that. Thank you.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 149? Senior Senator from Fairfax, Senator Stanislaw.
First off, in that no smoking bill, Mr. President, I believe it's not a separate section. It has to be a totally separate ventilation system servicing that. With respect to open air venues, just give you an example. I and Senator from Fairfax City are Redskins season ticket holders. You cannot smoke at FedEx Field, period, at any time for not just football, for any event. and that's a pretty big venue. So it's not like we're breaking new ground. There's a reason for that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 149 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 14.
Ayes 26, noes 14. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 100.
Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Senator has the floor.
The bill that we just voted on, Mr. President, is a very specific bill for one particular venue and one locality. Is that correct? Maybe I should ask the patron.
Ask the patron. Patron, yield for a question.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. No, Mr. President, I said Roanoke City wanted it. It says any locality. It does not. It's not just for Roanoke City. Any locality.
I wish that had been more clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senior Senator from Virginia Beach.
Having voted on the prevailing side by which the bill passed, I move we reconsider that vote.
The question is, shall the vote by which Senate Bill 149 passed be reconsidered? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The motion is agreed to. Senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I ask that the bill pass.
Question is, shall Senate Bill 149 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 14.
Ayes 26, noes 14. The bill passes.
Senate Bill 100, a bill relating to new sentencing hearing, abolition of parole.
The junior senator from Richmond City, Senator McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass.
Senator has the floor.
Sure. Senate Bill 100 entitles those defendants who were convicted of nonviolent felonies after the abolition of parole, but prior to the date of the Fishback versus Commonwealth decision to have a new sentence proceeding. And I renew my motion that the bill pass.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 100? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 100 pass? All those in favor of the bill, of the motion, will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 19, noes 20.
Ayes 19, noes 20. The bill fails.
Senate Bill 183, a bill relating to child abuse and neglect, notice of founded reports to Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this bill does is it merely would require the local departments of social services, after they have done an investigation and come up with a finding of child abuse or neglect, when they have that finding, to report that to the superintendent if the subject of that investigation held a teacher's license. This was a bill that came out of the Commission on Youth, and it is what we consider to be a reasonable change. The current law would require that Department of Social Services wait until all appeals processes have been exhausted. This bill would inform the superintendent earlier. This request came at the request of the superintendent. Again, I renew my request and ask that the bill pass.
I thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 183? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 183 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 22, noes 18.
Ayes 22, noes 18. Senate Bill 183 passes.
Senate Bill 184, a bill relating to child abuse and neglect, founded reports regarding former school employees.
The senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill pass. And speaking to the motion.
The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. What this bill does is it will require the Department of Social Services, again, if an investigation is conducted and there is what we would call a finding of child abuse and neglect, and the subject is a former employee of the school board, or an employee at the time that the investigation was ongoing, and the finding again is something that is substantiated, that the school board be informed without delay. This is a recommendation also coming out of the Commission on Youth. I ask that this bill pass.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard on Senate Bill 184? Seeing none, the question is, shall Senate Bill 184 pass? All those in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 26, noes 14.
Ayes 26, noes 14. Senate Bill 184 passes.
Senate Bill 552, a bill relating to crab pots and peeler pots, marine biodegradable escape panels penalty.
The senator from Williamsburg, Senator Mason.
Mr. President, I move the bill pass. And speaking to the motion.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, we all know that crabbers and watermen provide a great deal to our economy and to our seafood industry, but we have a situation that 20 to 25% of the crab pots are lost each year. And so the implication of that is they keep fishing, if you will, and catch up to 6 million crabs, 3 million which are estimated never are released. There are also 20 different other species that get caught up in these crab pots. So the Virginia Institute of Marine Science has come up with a biodegradable panel that will help that cause. Now, we also, the bill speaks to the fact that we also use any natural product. We're trying to get to the point that these lost ghost crab pots are no longer continually catching crab and other species, which are in effect competing against the watermen. Between 2008 and 2014, we spent about $4.2 million to have watermen help us to recapture many of these ghost pots. They recovered about 35,000 of them with an estimated, but it was well worth the cost of $4.2 million because they recouped about $21 million worth of crab by getting those pots out of the water. Now, one thing you're going to hear that this is onerous to the watermen and puts a burden upon them. But we intentionally pushed the deadline of this out. So the first deadline for the manufacturing sale of pots is October of 2019, 18 months out. And more importantly, the deadline for the use of crab pots that must have some biodegradable panels on them is July of 2020. So we intentionally pushed the first deadline out past the next General Assembly session to try to avoid this being an onerous effort on the watermen that use them today. With that, Mr. President, I move the bill pass.
Thank the senator. For what purpose does the senator from Accomack, Senator Lewis, rise?
Speaking to the bill, Mr. President.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I rise reluctantly to speak against this measure by my good friend and sometime doppelganger, the senator from Williamsburg. But I want to relate just a few quick points about why this bill is not ready for prime time. The testimony before the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee from John Bull, Commissioner of the VMRC, was that they had attempted some experiments with this technology through their stakeholder group on a limited basis with about 8 crabbers for part of a summer, and the results were at best mixed. So there's some question as to whether this technology is in and of itself ready for prime time. It further highlights the point that there is, in fact, a process within the Virginia Marine Resources Commission to address situations like this by regulation. And that involves a lot of stakeholders. It involves a lot of intensive work and experimentation with these new technologies. And that has not run its course. So we're sort of jumping through the regulatory hoops that we've established for dealing with questions like this, and we're preemptively doing it by legislation. And again, the results were mixed. We also heard testimony from a very young crabber who testified about how he had to retrofit pots and how he had to cut them in order to insert the panels, and how if he didn't do it correctly, it would actually ruin the pot and render the pot useless. There are about between 800 and 1,000 licensed watermen in the Commonwealth. The number of pots these folks have, on average, is between 200 and 400 pots. And so you're looking at retrofitting 400, perhaps as many as 400 pots for these folks at 2 panels at $1, I think $1.50 a piece. Also, the concern is with these mixed results and with the requirement to retrofit being so ambitious that we are actually setting these folks up to fail, because the statute provides that it will be a Class 3 misdemeanor for each violation for failure to retrofit. So that's important. Another thing I'd like to point out and mention in regard to my friends on the other side of the aisle who were on the Ag and Natural Resources Committee, who so willingly embraced the big hand of government and small business. We're all about second chances here. And so when you cast your vote today on the floor for this bill, remember the small businessman, the waterman, because this small business loving Democrat is going to vote for the small businessman and going to vote for freedom. So thank you, Mr.
President. The senior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against the bill.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I listened to the senator from James City County with great interest. Williamsburg, James City County, greater area. And his line about onerous was very, very interesting. It's not going to be onerous on 1 July. It's going to be onerous in 2020. I don't know how you feel, but if somebody, said something terrible is going to happen to you, but don't worry, it's not going to happen next week. It's going to happen a month from now. I don't feel any better about it than I would. In fact, I might feel worse about it than that. So, I don't think there's any question that this is going to put an undue burden on people that, quite frankly, I don't see any crabbers running around in Bentley automobiles and get off their crab boat and then hop on their 100-foot yacht to do that. These people are literally working extremely hard. If you've ever watched, they're up very, very early in the morning. They work extremely hard manhandling these ponds in and off of dead rise boats. They make a great living. They provide us a great product. They add tremendous to the economy of Virginia, and I see no reason to have onerous at any time on these folks, much less not 1 July, but 2020. So I hope you join me in voting against the bill.
Thank the senator. The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak to the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President and ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, the bill, while well-intentioned, actually has a couple of problems on it. Number one, the biodegradable panel that's going to be put on these pots, it takes about 8 months to biodegrade. Now, the crabs and other species that are, on the near the floor of the bay, they don't just swim by a crab pot and go, a crab pot, I think I'll take a look in there. Basically, they go in because there's bait in there. So after 8 months, no species that's going to go in one of those crab pots is going to be able to survive that 8 months anyway. We have a ghost pot reclamation project on the Chesapeake Bay. The watermen, when they're not crabbing, they're actually going out looking for those ghost pots, and they've been successful in bringing those up. In talking with some of the folks from VMRC, they have some doubts about the efficacy of the program. Again, watermen work very, very hard. They're out very, very early, and they're working till late at night. It's not an easy life, but it's a rewarding life for them. And I really hope that we're not going to make their life harder. So, Mr. President, I hope that we will not pass this bill.
Thank the senator. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D-Staff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against the bill.
Senator has the floor.
Well, after talking to a couple of these crabbers, I'll tell you it's about economics. The average crab pot costs between $22 and $32 a pot. If you look at putting 2 of these panels per pot, that's $3. If you have to do it twice a year, that's $6. So you're talking about a 20% increase on the price of a crab pot. That's kind of hard for folks who aren't making that much money. So think about those in Tangier Island. Think about those who are driving around in older pickup trucks, picking up these crab pots and collecting these crabs. This is a huge economic impact when we put a 20% increase on anyone. I understand we're delaying it, but still, 20% increase is pretty huge on any industry. Thank you, Mr. President. I hope everybody joins us in voting against this measure.
Thank the senator. The senior senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to speak against the measure.
Senator has the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I applaud the senator from Williamsburg for putting in what I think in many ways is a very good measure. The crab pots, while the first crabs that go in there die in short order, other crabs keep coming in, and other sea life keeps coming in, and so they are doing damage to the population, as I understand it. I'm going to vote against it because I vote with the watermen, and I know that we've got a lot of people who are on the raggedy edge economically, and I know that they are among those in many cases. So I'll vote against it, but I do encourage that we continue working to try to find a solution to this, because I hate to think of having thousands of traps that are there just constantly churning wildlife at the bottom of the ocean and diminishing the supply of crabs and so forth. And so I applaud the gentleman for introducing the bill, but I think I will have to vote with the watermen.
Thank the senator. Do any other senators wish to be heard?
Mr. President.
Senator from Williamsburg,
If everyone has spoken, I'd like to wrap it up real quick.
Senator has the floor.
Mr. President, the flu sweeping the body seems to have caught my bill as well. But here's why I should have had a flu shot. It's not onerous, Mr. President, because the young gentleman, by the way, we had a 12, 13-year-old speak. He did a spectacular job. And he spoke to a waterman that had about 300 pots. On July of 2020, that means that he would have to retrofit between 120 and 150 at a total cost of $350 to $400 based on the percentages he would have lost to then. Also, to the additional cost of the crab pots as you buy them, as we are manufacturing and sell them all with biodegradable panels, the cost will by nature go down, so it will not be a 20% increase. I appreciate the interest and the lookout for the watermen. We, too, are trying to do that, and I mean them no harm, and I'd appreciate, sir, I renew my motion to support the bill.
Thank the senator. The question is, shall Senate Bill 552 pass? All those in favor will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 15, noes 25.
Ayes 15, noes 25. The bill fails.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on second reading.
The senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would respectfully move that all the Senate bills on the second reading on the uncontested calendar be engrossed and advanced to the third reading in the block after the adoption of any amendments. If any senator desires to remove a bill from the block, please do so after the clerk has read the number of that bill.
The question is, shall all Senate bills on second reading on the uncontested calendar on pages 6 through 7, Senate Bill 51 through Senate Bill 540, be engrossed and advanced to the third reading in the block after the adoption of the amendments thereto, that any senator desiring to remove a bill from the block do so after the clerk has read the number of the bill. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
I'll read the numbers.
Yes, oh, sorry. The clerk will read the numbers. Excuse me.
Senate Bill 51, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. Senate Bill 52, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice. Senate Bill 109, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with the substitute.
Senior Senator from Loudoun, Senator Black.
Mr. President, I move the committee substitute.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 508, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the substitute be agreed to.
The question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Senate Bill 540, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The question is, shall the Senate bills be engrossed in advance to their third reading? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills are engrossed in advance to their third reading.
Regular calendar. Senate bills on second reading. Senate Bill 106, a bill relating to congressional and state legislative districts compactness standard. Reported from the Committee on Privileges and Elections with a substitute, and we do have a floor substitute.
Mr. President.
Sorry, Senator from Northern Fairfax, Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Among the bills that were put together was mine, so now I'm a co-chief patron, and I have not yet had an opportunity to study the new version, so I'm wondering if we could pass it by for the day.
Senator from Roanoke County, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've got no issue with it going by for the day, but just the benefit of what I want everyone to see here specifically, so we'll be ready to vote on it tomorrow, is look at lines 22 through 25. This is a criteria bill for redistricting that says districts shall be drawn in accordance with the requirements of federal and state laws and judicial interpretations of such laws that address racial and ethnic fairness, including the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution and the provisions of the Federal Voting Rights Act as 1965 as amended. That was the question that I had from the other side, and I hope that this will make folks happy and we'll be ready to vote for it tomorrow.
Thank you, Senator. Without objection, Senate Bill 106 will go by for the day.
Senate Bill 792, a bill relating to special license plates, Friends of the Blue Ridge Parkway, reported from the Committee on Transportation with amendment.
The senator from Roanoke City, Senator Edwards.
Mr. President, I move that the committee's amendment be agreed to. The amendment just simply adds that the funds to be used by the Friends of the Blue Ridge Parkway would be used in Virginia, since the Blue Ridge Parkway goes from Afton Mountain down to Ashland, North Carolina. So that's all it does. It's clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to.
Mr. President, I move that the bill now be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 49, a bill relating to sex offenders and emergency shelters, notification, registration, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
The senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the committee substitute and speaking thereon. Okay, I move the committee substitute, Mr. President.
Right. The question is, shall the substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to. Senior senator from Chesapeake, Senator Cosgrove.
I knew I was forgetting something. Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and passed on to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 85, a bill relating to preliminary protective orders, contents of orders, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Serville.
Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed in advance to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed in advance to its third reading.
Senate Bill 420, a bill relating to witness testimony accompanied by certified facility dogs, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with a substitute.
The senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I move the Senate agree to the committee substitute.
Question is, shall the committee substitute be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee substitute is agreed to.
Mr. President.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 614, a bill relating to modification of spousal support, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice with amendment.
Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Mr. President, I move the committee amendment.
The question is, shall the committee amendment be agreed to? All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee amendment is agreed to. The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Mr. President, I move the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 615, a bill relating to spousal support payments, employer withholding, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Mr. President, I move that this bill putting one comma into the code be engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The chair is uncertain. We'll have a recorded vote. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 39, noes 1.
Ayes 39, noes 1. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Senate Bill 833, a bill relating to installation of a pen register or trap and trace device, emergency circumstances, reported from the Committee for Courts of Justice.
The senator from Grayson, Senator Carrico.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask that we engross the bill and pass it on to its third reading.
The question is, shall the bill be engrossed and advanced to its third reading? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is engrossed and advanced to its third reading.
Uncontested calendar, Senate bills on first reading.
Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move all the Senate bills on the first reading on both the uncontested and regular calendar, which would include all Senate bills on pages 10 through 22, including Senate Bill 154 through Senate Bill 779, that the rules of the Senate be suspended and the first constitutional reading of the titles be dispensed with.
I thank the senator. The question is, shall the rules be suspended and the first reading of the titles of Senate bills on the uncontested and regular calendars, pages 10 through 22, Senate Bill 154 through Senate Bill 779, be dispensed with? All in favor of the motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Do any senators desire to change their votes? The clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 40, no 0.
Ayes 40, no 0. The reading of the titles is dispensed with. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I'd now ask that all of the bills be passed by for the day, sir.
The question is, shall the Senate bills, the uncontested and regular calendars now on second reading be passed by for the day? All in favor of the motion will say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bills will go by for the day. Senator from James City County, Senator Norman.
Completes today's calendar, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President.
Senator from Spotsylvania, Senator Reeves.
Mr. President, I was notified by the clerk that a bill finally got drafted for me, so I would ask for a unanimous consent to introduce a bill relating to submission of site plans.
The question is, shall the Senate grant consent to introduce a bill as described by the senator? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The consent of the Senate is granted to introduce the bill. The senator from Augusta, Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise for announcement.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you. Just to call the members' attention to the fact the Sportsman Caucus, which is a continuing caucus with the Senate and the House, bipartisan caucus, meets every week Thursday morning at 7 a.m. So we will be having a meeting tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. on the second floor, room 200. So I invite all those that are interested in the Sportsman Caucus to be present. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. The senator from Petersburg, Senator Dance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on the point of a personal privilege.
The senator has the floor.
Mr. President, I rise to acknowledge the passing of an esteemed American civil rights leader who passed away early yesterday morning, Reverend Dr. Wyatt T. Walker, a true revolutionary of his time and proponent for justice and racial equality. He was fundamental in reforming the American experience. Dr. Walker was born in Brockton, Massachusetts, and would later receive his education and Master's of Divinity from Virginia Union University here in Richmond. He would go on to become a pastor of my own church, Guilford Baptist Church, wherein my husband, if he was here today, would proudly show you his certificate of baptism because he baptized him. God bless him. Dr. Walker would serve the community and ministry of Guilford Baptist Church for 8 years before becoming the first full-time executive director of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and then go on to become chief of staff to Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Dr. Walker served as a key strategist behind the civil rights protests that would shift the hearts and attitudes of our nation and propel this country to move forward on a path toward respect, human dignity, and equality. Dr. Walker would preach against intolerance and injustice for 6 decades across the South, New York City, and throughout the world. Through spiritual guidance, dynamic advocacy, and a commitment to public service, this man of great vision endeavored to change the world and did so with grace and benevolence. Mr. President, I would like to make 2 requests.
Senator has the floor.
First, I request that today when we adjourn, we do so in honor and memory of Reverend Dr. Wyatt T. Walker. And second, Mr. President, is that prior to acting on my first request, that I be allowed to yield time to the junior senator from Richmond who chairs the Martin Luther King Commission, Senator Jennifer McClellan, wherein we, the members of that commission, voted just last year to recognize him for his outstanding accomplishments.
Thank the senator. The junior senator from Richmond City has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wyatt T. Walker was one of the most central figures of the civil rights movement, not just in Virginia, but across the nation. As president of the student body at Virginia Union School of Theology, Wyatt met a young Dr. Martin Luther King, who was president of his student body at Crozet Theological Seminary. In 1952, during Dr. King's first visit to Virginia as part of an inter-seminary movement conference, that meeting started a partnership that would change America. As president of the Petersburg branch of the NAACP, state director and co-founder of the Congress of Racial Equality, as co-founder of the Petersburg Improvement Association, Reverend Walker was one of the architects of the civil disobedience movement against segregation, including publicizing their events to get attention among white moderates. His first arrest came in 1960 when he led a group of protesters through the whites-only entrance of the Petersburg Library, calmly walked to the counter, and asked to check out the first volume of Douglas Southall Freeman's biography of Robert E. Lee. That choice was intentional. The Petersburg Library sit-in would become a catalyst for desegregation of Petersburg's lunch counters, bus terminals, restaurants, and public swimming pools. A year before Freedom Riders took action in 1961, Wyatt led sit-ins at the Trailways bus terminal, gaining agreement by the president of the bus terminal restaurants to desegregate lunch counters in Petersburg and several other Virginia cities. As Dr. King's chief of staff and executive director of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Wyatt was a key advisor on structure and strategy and helped to develop the Watershed 1963 Birmingham, Alabama campaign. King called him one of the keenest minds of the nonviolent revolution. And among Wyatt's papers, which were donated to the University of Richmond recently, is a letter inviting Dr. King to appear on a TV show. And at the top, in Dr. King's handwriting, he just said, "Let Wyatt handle this." Wyatt handled a lot for Dr. King. In doing so, he survived a bombing of his hotel in Alabama, and he had to be restrained when an Alabama police officer struck his wife in the head with a gun, sending her to the hospital. Threats did not deter him. Asked about them later, he said, "Well, this was my country, and I loved my country, and I wanted it to be the best that it could be for my children to grow up in. And I was determined that I was going to help make it the best that it could be. That was my role. That's what I wanted to do." And he did. And in his own words, I think he sums up his place in Virginia history and America history and in the hearts and minds of many who he helped make free. I was just a participant in what I think was the unfinished revolution of 1776. I feel a sense of fulfillment that I had a key role in desegregating America. It is for these reasons the King Commission chose Wyatt Walker to be one of 10 Virginians to be recognized on a monument to emancipation and freedom that will be built on Browns Island. He was a true Virginia and American hero. And on behalf of the Martin Luther King Commission, we are grateful for his service on this earth. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the Senator. Is there any other business to come before the Senate? Seeing none, the clerk will report any announcements on the desk.
Today, Wednesday, January 24th, 2018, the Committee for Courts of Justice will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room A in the Pocahontas Building. The Committee on Transportation will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in Senate Room 3 in the Capitol. The Finance Subcommittee on Transportation will meet at 4:00 p.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 1. Senators Wagner, Saslaw, Newman, Carrico, Barker, and Donovan. The Rural Caucus will meet at 5:00 p.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 2. Tomorrow, Thursday, January 25th, 2018, Committee on Education and Health will meet at 8:00 a.m. in Senate Room A in the Pocahontas Building. The Finance Subcommittee on Capital Outlay and General Government will meet at 8:00 a.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 1. Senators Norman, Saslaw, Hanger, Lucas, Ruff, Wagner, McDougall, Vogel, Obenchain, and Dance. The Hampton Roads Caucus will meet at 8:00 a.m. in the 5th floor Subcommittee Room Number 3. The Republican Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet at 11:30 a.m. in Senate Room 1.
Senator from Bedford, Senator Newman.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow. And when we do so in the honor of the Reverend Dr. Wyatt T. Walker.
I thank the Senator. The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 12 noon tomorrow in honor of the Reverend Dr. Wyatt T. Walker? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow in honor of Reverend Dr. Wyatt T. Walker.